Hello? Hello. Hopefully this shit is working. I just realized I don't have one of these things open that I'm supposed to have open. But maybe it's fucking working. Go ahead and give me the confirmation, Twitch, if this microphone is working, because if it's not, it's Colin's fault. It's 100% Colin's fault if this motherfucking microphone is not working right now. Anyways, I'm assuming no one's yelled at me yet, so we're good to go. Welcome to Wired In Wednesday. We do this shit every Wednesday, although I think we're about to do it every other Wednesday because, dog, we are running out of people to talk to. But Colin and I were talking the other day, and it's like, man, if we try to interview someone every Wednesday forever, it's impossible. Because we're not podcasters, we don't know what the fuck we're doing, so we're gonna buy ourselves some extra time. But we're here today with my friend and artist Anthony Danza from Seattle.
Oh.
What's up, man? How the fuck you doing? Oh shit, we lost him.
Hold on. My bad. Got a call. I didn't put any. Maybe I should have put something on like where I like don't.
No, man, it's all
not
good.
Disturb or something. Fuck it.
It's all good. This dude showed up early. He had his shit working. Most of the time, we're like 15 minutes late, and then the person's audio is like a second behind, and then they'll just like freeze in the middle of it, and it's like. So,
I wanted to make sure I did this right because I don't do this.
It.
I don't do this shit that much. This is very rare. I don't do many live things. So.
Well, welcome. Now, everybody who is kind of a mainstay here, you know what happens on Wired In Wednesday. We are partnered with Astro headphones. So, yeah, people are already doing it. If you want to fuck around and win some headphones, you can hit !raffle to enter the raffle. That is if you are subscribed to the channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel and you got Amazon Prime, bitch, it's free. Let Bezos pay for that shit. You can follow the prompts. You can follow the fucking prompts and go ahead and get yourself a free 1-month subscription to the channel, courtesy of old fucking flying spaceballs Bezos over there. We'll be running and ready to get some headphones. Now, Anthony, before we flipped over, we were just having a conversation on the other side of this. And we were kind of talking about music videos. Anthony's in LA right now. He's filming a music video. But let's preface that. You're in LA, you're filming a music video for what?
I got a new song off my new tape. It's called Don't Hit My Line. And yeah, down here is like gonna be like the first video off of this, the tape I just dropped on the 2nd.
Cool.
Yeah.
Man, I've been loving what you've been doing, and because it hasn't always been this way with you. Like you're pretty versatile. You're an artist across the board. So not only are you an MC, but you're a hell of a fucking producer. And especially coming up, like you had a lot of tracks with a lot of the local homies, which I think is where I first heard your name. And like running around the undercast circuit, like your name came up a whole bunch, especially around like Grinch and those cats. Okay. But we've had this conversation on the stream before, and I've talked about it multiple times, and I've explained to people why I think Redman is like my favorite rapper of all time, because not only does he have bars and all that and wonderful beat selection, but he is this character that he has just completely embodied, the Reggie Noble, the Superman lover. Like he has it all. He has the charisma and the talent to back it all up, and he doesn't really falter from that, because honestly I think it's who he is. But I mean, it's also what made a whole lot of sense when he went into acting and all that shit. Like he was such this vibrant character. All his records had fucking skits on them and shit like that, and it was what you expected from him. And I've always said some of the greatest have created this thing, like Prof has created this thing, and you have this fucking wild like callback with your new music. And I remember talking with you when we were in Europe together, how you were kind of harnessing that like 80s like vintage nostalgia shit, and you've hammered it in completely. Like you got the Dookie chain on right now. Like, my God. Like it's I love it so much. Like every time you drop, every video that you do, like the fucking like 1-800, like kind of like the call center thing that you had going on, and even the breaking down the lyrics, and it was like you kind of like as like a kid show host from like the late 80s.
It was almost like Mr. Rogers, like.
It's so fucking good, and it's so tight, and it's so original to see this happen. And like, because a lot of people flip-flop, they're all over the fucking place, and they kind of chase what everyone else is doing, and you said, nah, I want to do this. And I gotta say, I'm a fucking huge fan. I think it's amazing.
Man, thank you so much. I appreciate that off the jump, because I have a tremendous amount of respect for you. Like I said, this is a rare thing for me to do anything like this. And when Mr. Papersworth called and gave me the invite,
new nickname, damn.
I was like, hell yeah, I would love to do it. You know, I love to get any time spent with you guys, especially you know, anything that has to do with just, you know, getting any more observations of how you're doing it, because you set a really good example, and your grind is crazy, bro. And I love how humble you are with it. And then after you start delving into your stuff, and then before you look up and you realize how much you're involved, and you're like, oh shit, like it's too late, I already love this shit. And I love that part about it. I was talking with some guys last night, because I was telling them about that I'm coming on here to do this, and everyone was like, oh yeah, Greaves is dope as fuck. And we were talking about how low key and under the radar dope you are. And, you know, and I brought that up. I was like, that's almost like my favorite type of dope. Like, that's kind of like how I want to play it off. I don't, you know, like, I want to be this boutique, you know, you have to figure it out. So the real fans that know you, they really know, and they really have a, you know, this tremendous connection with you, because they know, you know, what they're dealing with. But people from the outside in that know one or two songs, they're like, oh yeah, it's cool, and they act like they know, you know, what it is, but they're not a part of the alliance of the people that really know what's going on. And I think that's kind of a cool thing to do, especially in today's climate of the internet, where you can kind of go find your boutique passion or love, or, you know, whatever you like, as far as, you know, whatever be music or whatever it is.
Yeah, as much as we talk shit on the algorithm, it has led us, especially me, it's led me to some really great things. But that's me following my kind of boutique-y, you know, cutty things that I like, and then the internet will be like, oh hey, have you heard of this? And it's like, oh yes. And it's nice having that access, because I remember when I was getting into this, I loved all those cutty things. I loved those hard to find things. And I loved having something that I could share with somebody else that they haven't heard yet, right? Like that was the crown jewel when you were lining up on Tuesdays to get records back in the day. It was so much harder because we didn't really have the fucking internet. We kind of had what the record store dude, like the record store dude was internet. Like you know, we could tell him what we were feeling, and he'd be like, oh shit, have you heard of this stuff coming out of Minnesota? Have you heard, you know, this coming out of Chicago? And like he could hit you with some cutty stuff, and then you know, you go back to your circle with this little fucking CD, and you're like, have you heard of this? Have you heard of Wu-Tang?
Right. If you were the kid with the parents that let you listen to cuss word music early on, you were kind of ascended also. Like you could put on a lot of people in the neighborhood, like, you know, just because you were a couple years ahead. Like that was a big deal.
Yeah, man, that used to be a prerequisite for me. I was like, does it have the parental advisory sticker? If not, chances are this shit sucks.
Oh my god, I had to buy a couple albums from I think they're Rite Aids now, but I think back in the day it was called what was Rite Aid before it was Rite Aid? I'm about to show my ass my age right now. I want to say it was Payless, like not Payless Shoe Source, but
no,
I think
I don't know.
Was it Payless?
I don't know, because I was in the Midwest, and I don't know if we had Rite Aids out there.
Okay. So Rite Aid used to be something else, and they had a little small music section, and I just remember sometimes they had things
Pay and
that
Save? Someone said Pay and Save?
It wasn't Pay and Save, but it was something like that. But I got like maybe an Ice Cube Lethal Injection, maybe a Rex and Effects tape, like back in the day, and I didn't even notice it, but they did not have the parental advisory stickers on it, and I was stuck with the edited versions. And oh my god, it was almost
I hated that shit.
It was almost embarrassing to play it.
Mr. Papersworth is saying Thrifty Discount Center.
No.
Someone's gonna get it. Someone's gonna use it.
It was a two syllable joint, like Rite Aid, but it was like
Thrifty.
Pay less or pay something. Well, yeah.
Damn, y'all, come through with this.
But to backpack real fast on your Reggie Noble stuff, I just wanted to add, after watching that Versus last night, I don't know if you watched any of that.
Man, I feel like I'm the only one that didn't watch it.
I mean, you didn't miss a lot, but you missed a little bit, but it's nothing you can't go brush up on. But those verses are cool because it's almost like you're watching a show in real time with everybody, and everyone around the world is like in that moment is watching it with you, so it's kind of cool. But it kind of made me think of how, and I don't want to be the old guy that says back in the day they used to do this and they don't do this now, because that's not how it really is. But just because we've lived through it, we know how much of it there was. But like Redman and members of the Wu-Tang, like they were really, really in those characters. Like,
yes.
Not Raekwon, not
Ghostface.
Ghostface is always in this crazy ass crack house, fucking dirty shitting ass Pampers like type of like.
Old dirty bastard.
Right, they are all in that. They're all in that character and that hue, and I didn't even notice that back when we were listening to them. And now that I look back, I'm like, yeah, that's a thing, because they're obviously different people at different times.
Oh, the first time I heard Wu-Tang, it was like, okay, I'd heard hip hop, I'd heard tons of shit, and then I heard Wu-Tang, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck they're saying. Like they have their own language going on, and I was like, I can't get enough of this. Like, I am fully immersed in the character that is, like, which makes so much sense that Redman became like a Wu affiliate, more or less, especially with the Method Man Redman shit. But like, yeah, it was this thing. It was this untouchable thing that they create. It was their thing. That whole Dun culture thing, like it was definitely around, and it was, all over on the East Coast, but the whole Wu-Tang, like the Wu-Tang Clan, and they had like based it all around the old Kung Fu movies, so they named themselves after characters from these fucking old Kung Fu movies, like, that we used to just fucking steal from Blockbuster music back in the day. Fuck y'all, whatever, it's been long enough, you can't come get me, but yeah, we used to just fucking rack those things
right
from there. But it was just unheard of and like crazy.
I think people can smell and feel originality when it was easy for them. It wasn't hard for them. It was just something that oozed out of them, and subliminally you can just feel it and you connect to it. And I think that was the big thing about Wu-Tang. They were having fun.
Hell yeah. And they created a thing that went bigger than music, right? Like you'll see a fucking like 13-year-old. I mean, you'll see a baby in a Wu-Tang onesie with their fucking like Microsoft working ass parents. Like it's like a cultural symbol, and
Wu-Tang
it goes like farther than hip hop.
Right. Snoop Dogg is to the West Coast as Wu-Tang is to the East Coast. Like it's like Martha Stewart, baby onesies, like all that shit is like it all lives in the same space.
It's crazy, man. And then it's also created like. I feel like for some people it made it corny or whatever, but not for me, because I remember why it was so important. I remember I was drunk off of it, like I remember what it felt like when I first discovered 36 Chambers, and I was like, oh my fucking God. Like, and I couldn't get enough. And man, Colin, dude, this fucking guy, he had it all. I don't know how he got it all, but he had it all. He had a CD book with just all of it, like every single Woo affiliate, all like every cutty little fucking impossible to find. This is before the internet. Like if you're ordering shit, you're ordering it from like the back of the CD, where you like set, you know, you fucking write it down, you send it in to Loud Records.
BMG, 15 CDs for 99 cents.
Yes, man. Like it was, and then you waited like 2 months, and then you got like your fucking T-shirt that was a size too big already. Like, and, like,
and then you had to buy 3 CDs at fucking $25 a pop to pay them back.
Yeah, man. It was fucking. But he had it all, man. His CD case was coveted. I remember in high school we used to roll around in his car, and it was like he had it like alphabetically ordered, and he had the fucking the jacket behind the CD, and it was man, he had it all.
Makes me sick. He probably took very good care of his CDs
oh, hell
too.
Yes, he did. Wu-Tang was like his Pokemon cards.
See, my homeboy Josh Holloway was the same. He was like same to me, and he always had. I had tons of CDs, but I was putting them motherfuckers to the ringer. My shit was
reckless.
Up.
Yeah, I was reckless.
Yeah, and I was putting them to fucking use. But my homie that I'm talking about still has all his shit, just like Colin probably has all his shit in the garage, all mint condition. You bastards, you had good parents, I'm sure you did.
They taught you the value of physical things.
Right. Or just not fucking treating everything like shit.
Me, I'd just get too excited with shit, and I'd like put the next CD and like forget about the other one, or just like shove it in the case like out of place, or like slide it in with another one and be like, ugh.
Oh yeah. Like.
But, anyways, all that stuff, all that aside, you're in LA, you're filming a music video. The reason why I went off on that tangent is because of this kind of ambiance you've set for your music. And I guess the real question I was gonna ask is that the placement? Like, do we stay here in like the like this like kind of, you know, you have cars dated to the era, you have like even the film effects that you use on the videos to like wardrobe, like everything is like dated, it's perfect, it's amazing. Like, is this Anthony Danza now, or do we like, is it a timepiece like series? Do we jump around?
I think we jump around. I think we live in this space for a while, but I think, you know, Anthony Danza embodies, you know, retro for sure.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm gonna weave in and out of, you know, some other lanes retro wise. The next tape I'm gonna do is gonna be New Jack Danza, which is kind of like more New Jack,
like
you know,
Teddy
New
Riley,
Jack
90s.
Yeah. In the BBS Diaries is more like, you know, like mid 80s funk, you know, R&B, you know, type of joints. And I'll definitely, you know, I grew up with 90s music, so that's gonna be, you know, easy for me. And I love all these records. I love tons of different types of music.
Yeah.
I was just talking about classic rock. It's probably like one of my favorite genres, for just so many reasons. But you know, when I go back and do like another BBS Diaries, I'll go back to that, you know, type of recipe, and you know, I'll kind of weave around, but I'll kind of keep, you know, the retro, you know, thing, you know, as my theme. You know, even before. Thank you. Even before, you know, just swinging out with all the imagery and all this stuff like that. This was very much my aim. Like, my music was always kind of like this. I just couldn't get, I honestly couldn't get the rest of the package together. And I was, you know, trying, I produce for other people, I do this, I try to find my way inside and figure out how to make it make sense. And man, I always tell this when we're talking about, not to veer off too far from what we're trying to get into, but when I'm talking to other artists about like branding and kind of the image and stuff like that, I always tell people how much I thought I had a image and how much I thought I had a brand, and when, you know, I wasn't even close. And you have to really, really, really overdo it for it to resonate into people's eyes. Like, I literally have to put on a Dookie chain before I get on, you know, I'll ride around in my car with my Dookie chain with me, you know what I'm saying, in case I gotta get on camera. If I wear it, this motherfucker's heavy. It's like, you can't wear it all the time, but I'm just saying, you know, that whole shoot for the stars and land on the moon type shit with your image. Because we all think we're living in image, and it's like, you have to really, really, really like go in and go hard and overdo it for it to materialize. I feel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you. It's like what's the best way to put it? I don't know. It's when you do this, you kind of always have to be on, and when you are shooting for something that is how you want people to describe you, you can't half-ass it, or you can't only be this sometimes, or you can't like, you can't dilute the sauce by any fucking means. And it's an extremely, for me, I found it extremely frustrating, but I also kind of was just like, this is me, I am what I am, and luckily I didn't really lock into a character, which is weird because all of my favorite musicians are these characters. All of my favorite records are themed. Like all of my favorite pieces of art have this like very specific thing about them, and I've had this conversation with other artists. When I show up to the studio, I'm blank. I got nothing in my brain, and that's a good day. I know it's gonna be a good day because I have nothing to rival me. So art has always been just like, put the bucket in the well, pull it up, and see what comes out. And I've been luckily consistent with that, but it's hard to say that inconsistency, or that like, that just kind of like meh has been my consistent like protocol. And I've thought about it a lot, and even when I do try to dial into one direction, I can't get it because I feel like I can't go this way, and when I can't go that way, like a child, I want to go that way. So it's like all my brain and it's all my music thinks about when it's like, no, I'm doing this, which for me has to kind of work around that idea is working with other artists. I'm happy to do it for you, and I'm happy to explore that realm for you. And then when it comes down to my music, can't do it. Like I have to do whatever the random thing in my brain is. So I've never been able to like lock in like an image or
well as much as that sounds, I think that is kind of ended up being your image. It's kind of like, this I don't give a fuck
it's gonna be this time.
Right, but but it's got some kind of parameters, your music and your skill set and what you decide to wear on camera or anytime you're in front of anybody, and what you'll say yes to and no to. Like there's some type of boundaries there, and it might not be the same every time, but it's definitely staying inside of Greaves' bubble. And over the years, that's become what it is. You definitely have a certain type of mood and temperature, that you think of, and that's been definitely cool as fuck, for you saying that you never were able to go find a character. You had to stick to whatever you were feeling in at the time, and that's become your character, and which is really dope, because if that's the real you, then you never really have to try too hard. You just give them a slice of you, and that's what it is.
I think
some people don't.
It allows for complexity too, in the regards of, I feel like every time I make a new record, I learn something new that advances me in music. And I've seen you talking about this, and I've especially watched your conversations with DJ Fresh about, like hip hop has this very like one-dimensional feel to it sometimes, and I feel like people have this stigma that rappers don't know shit about music, and I mean music as a creation. I mean like theory and composition and production. I'm not talking like, oh yeah, I know every record that fucking Steely Dan made,
right,
or even like who engineered this or what. Like I'm not talking about facts. Like regarding music, I'm talking about the things that help us create music more and more. And every time I make a record, I feel like I level up in that regard, because what is the fucking point of stepping back? And if I say that I do this one thing and I only do this one thing, then I have to do it. I have to lock into this. But if I say, hey, you know, in 2007, here's my boom bap record. And then, you know, after that, I'm like, hey, I'm sick of fucking getting emails from other people's lawyers about why I can't use these samples. I want to make it sound like a boom bap record, but me, with me, like me creating the samples. And I dialed that in for a little bit longer. And then the more I chased that idea, the better I got at music, the better I got at theory, the better I got. And I still don't really know shit about theory, but my brain is listening to music differently. It's connecting music differently. I hear what I used to hear a 2-bar loop, then I heard a 4-bar loop. Now I hear a 4-bar loop and I'm like, this is fucking boring. Now it's like 8-bar loops with the transition on the 8 into the 16, and it's like, even now, like, now I'm like, this is boring. Like, maybe I want to go back to 2-bar loops, but every 2 bars is different. Because jazz used to be rather impalatable to me, and now it makes so much more sense to me. And I crave that, and I require that as an artist, is advancement and growth. And if I would have locked into what I did on my first record, oh shit, he gone. If I would have locked into that idea, that character, that young, naive, dumb, I wouldn't allow myself any of the growth that I've had. I wouldn't be surrounded by all this shit, when I cut my first record, synthesizers were like, and you're like whack ass drum, like you had to have cut from the record, like fucking nasty ass, like drums, like, and everything has gone through these different cycles, and I listen back to the music, and my first record just had its 14-year anniversary on Saturday. And
congratulations.
Thank you. And it's crazy. And I listened to the record. I sat down, I put the vinyl on, and I listened to it. And I was like, I see so many flaws. Across the board, I see so many flaws. But I also see the other side of what I'm talking about, which is this blindness that allowed me to just open the fuck up. Like, nothing was stopping me from writing something, because I didn't have to think about what I've already done, or I don't have to think what maybe the people watching want from me, or I don't have to think about, oh, well, I had a hit on my last record, I need that again. Like, I don't have to chase the feelings of success or the fear of not being successful. I just said what I needed to say, and there's a lot of beauty in that side of it, and I can't get that back, because that's part of my advancement as well. And yeah, I don't know, that got off on a tangent, but
it was a good tangent, though. It was a good tangent. Just to add to it before we go on to the next tangent, I think the musicians and rappers, like you said, that want more in their sound, they crave those sounds. They're not going to stop until they find it. If you can find it in a producer and end up meeting a premiere or something like that, and you have all of those things fulfilled, then great, stops there. If you can't find it, then that's when you start picking up a guitar or a keyboard and figuring out how to start making the sounds that you want to hear. Which would
only make your experience with the producer better, right? Because if you sit down in a studio with somebody and they're like, so what you looking for? And you're like, I don't know. You ever heard Tupac? Right. But if you're able to play a chord for them, and they're like, oh, okay. And you're like, I'm thinking, my last record was heavy A minor, so maybe I want to do something F minor. I'm a minor guy. I normally keep it in the minor realm, unless I'm getting if I'm doing tons of dissonance, we can go into some major keys and shit like that. But I think, if you're able to sit down and just kind of touch around with a producer and be like, I'm really feeling this, and they're like, okay, well shit, we can do this, and this with this, and then you could just sit down and put records on and be like, yo, here's a bunch of songs that have really been getting me going lately, but F minor. Can we do something in F minor? Or, not saying people bring fucking key structure to studio sessions. I do,
No. I've been having the same conversations with a producer friend of mine. I'm like, man, I've been telling him this lately. I'm like, man, I need some minor stuff right now because he loves to. I mean, we're big in the funk. We love making funk records and stuff like that.
Yeah, if you're doing that 80s stuff, you're gonna be in that major scale.
But no. But I search for those minor records because it's a sweet balance. Because when you play the funk in minor scales, it sounds moody and brooding and dark, but the funk always gives, I don't want to say lighthearted, but it always kind of gives you a shot of energy when you hear funk. And so it kind of gives this other side of the pendulum or whatever you want to say. So when I get on minor chord or, minor keys or whatever you call it, and it's a funk piece, it really has a nice balance for me. I love getting on those because I can be serious, I can still be funky, I can talk, I can kind of go wherever. It gives me the freedom to do anything. When I'm on a major joint that's a funk, like I have to kind of like, be like, hey, everyone come together now.
That's hard for me. Like, I think that's why I avoid the major key, because I had one. On my last record, I had this song called A-OK, and that's like in a major key, and it is like like it's like this like happiness that does come naturally to me. But in music, I tend to go to the darker side because that's how I get rid of that shit, so that I do minor in music so I can have major in life. Like it's how I'm doing it, and it's worked fucking really well for me. Which is why it's a little confusing sometimes when people meet me, because I remember my first write-up with Pitchfork, my only write-up with Pitchfork, because I fucking told the dude I'd slap the fucking teeth out of him. But he wrote about me saying he didn't even listen to the record. He just looked at the cover of the record. He probably put on a song or two. He looked at the name. He looked at the label I was signed to, and he looked through some other shit. And he was like, this dude just seems like a really intense human being. Looks like he's a bummer at parties, or whatever the fuck he was saying. And just like broke my record down, what he thought about it without listening to it, and then broke me down as a person without ever talking to me, meeting me, sending me any fucking interview or anything. He just broke me down. And so this was like 2011, so I hit him up on Twitter, and I was like, you're in New York, I'm in New York, I'll slap the motherfucking Jesus out of you. And I mean, that was my first and last Pitchfork review. But I was so disappointed because it's like, man, minor in music to be major in life, and letting go of my misery makes me so incredibly happy. So, and I mean, you toured with us. It's like most of the time, like my stage show is like an actually like fun and happy stage show where I'm telling jokes and kind of exuding life. But my music is much different. It's sadder, and it touches on a lot of things and a lot of hurtful things. And that's just when I drop the bucket into the well, that's what I'm pulling up. And I'm fine with that. But it also, it's like talking to a therapist. It allows me to have some clarity in my life that allows me to be this like happier, easygoing person. And I've met fans, and they're like, I didn't expect you to like be joking so much. Like I expected you to be more serious. It's like, yeah, I totally get it. I'm a fucking, like, this is confusing. I'm sure this is confusing, but like, it is how it is, and music has allowed me to do that.
That's amazing. You know what? I don't want to jinx this or anything like that, but most of the good musicians that I know are the ones that I think that are really like intellectually good at music. They're usually funny guys. Like most people, like, I don't know, most people that are really good at music that are pretty fucking, are pretty witty up here.
I noticed that when I was touring, when I would tour with like when my idols became my peers, which is like pretty much like top of the mountain, right? Like when your idols become your peers, that is the ultimate measure of success. Beyond happiness and fiscal and finance, all that other shit. But like when your idols become your peers, then you know that it's no longer a dream. Like it's you are doing, like you are meant to be here. You are doing this. And when I remember the first time I got in a bus or a van with my idols, and I was expecting them to be these kind of like probably how people thought with me, like kind of like wise sage, like I've gotten so much from your music, and they're just cracking jokes the whole time and they're fucking laughing their asses off, and then you listen to their record and it's like not that at all, and you're like,
Right.
the fuck? Or some of these like tough guy rappers, you know, like where it's just like click clack shit the whole time, but then you get, you know, you jump back on the bus after the show and it's just fucking like jokes. It's laughing the whole entire time. And
Right.
it's I don't know, I guess I've never really thought about it to that, like maybe like humor helps you palate and become better at certain things. But I also notice some of my favorite MCs, talkers, can't stop talkers, like always fucking talking. Like some of the best MCs, I guess, maybe not some of my favorite, but that gift to gab, like they
Sure.
like always lending to a conversation, always had something to say, like read a lot, like there's always, I just feel like some of the greatest MCs, a lot of the greatest MCs are these very like, they just can always do it, and they're like sitting down and watching them write so quickly. Not my case. Like I cannot write like that. And I've been in the studio with these people, and it's just been like, man, I fucking wish I wish I could do that. I wish I could do that.
I think a lot of good artists they like to indulge, and they're smart, and they kind of figure out that, you know, being funny is like a free passage of like, or it's a free shot of dopamine or whatever, you know,
Yep.
whatever is released when you laugh, like you're getting high when you laugh. So
that's
like,
great.
you know,
Yeah.
subliminally through life, these guys, you know, including us, like you learn to be witty because it's like keeping us up and keeping us, you know, full and whatnot. For some reason, I always kind of like make that mental mark. If I like you in music, I'm always sizing you up. Is this guy funny or not? Or like, if he is, I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, he is. Like, I like him. Or you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, dude. When you guys showed up to Europe, I was like, damn. I mean, if you're looking at these dudes on paper, like they might be some serious motherfuckers. Like,
oh
yeah.
man, it's a fuck.
And then that first night in Paris, I was like, never mind, these guys are great. Hey.
Man, it's a battle to make each other laugh. I mean, that's one of the greatest gifts I think that people can give when you're exchanging wits and you're exchanging, you know, all that. Like, I love that. I come from that type of household.
Yep. Yeah, man. It's I don't know. There's a lot of moving parts with a lot of this shit, but I do want to get back to your music, and like I had expressed, you know, like I can't confine myself to one thing or else I'll kind of bury myself. But I also think while you kind of creating this, like you're in the time machine, right? So the time machine kind of go wherever it wants to go. So you're not locked down by any means. And one thing I wanted to ask you is, like, you had said you didn't really have all the parts for it yet, like how you wanted to do it in the past. And I've often, like, I've looked at like videos of your studio sessions and I've listened to your music, and you have hit that mark so incredibly hard. What was the process, or like how in the ever living fuck did you find like the producers and studio musicians or whatever you're using here to, like, it is so dialed in and it is so perfect. So are you playing maestro? Are you getting all these things? Are you showing up with records kind of like how we were talking, like here's kind of the vibe that I'm looking for? And like, are you getting musicians in the room and kind of going like, play something like this, play something like that? Or is it, I don't even know what the is it would be. How the fuck are you making this happen? Because I'm super interested.
So I would say probably like 85% of almost my catalog so far is, you know, all from me. I
Oh,
would say, I would say a good bulk of that is, is sample based.
okay.
Okay. Um, and then, but I have plenty of records that are from scratch. So I don't know, how familiar you are, but I got songs like Young UPS where I got like the long hair and the
Yep.
boats and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that, that sounds like an old like funk song from '86 or something like that. But that's all completely original. That's played by me. Every bass
Okay.
line, every chord, drums, like drums taken from Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis records or whatnot. So, um, I definitely come from a producer's place also.
Yeah.
I'm in love with rap. I'm in love with producing, but I'm really in love with songs. I
Yeah.
love songs. I love records. I love just I don't like rap more than I like a record.
Yeah.
I like a song. If that makes any sense to
It
anyone out there.
100% makes sense.
So, it's whatever the record is calling for, is what's important at the time. And, there was times where, I didn't care about rap too much. And then there's times where I sway back in. Right now I'm having a ball and my freedom is really unlocked because I'm doing what I want and I like it. And so now writing is easy for me. It used to take me months to write a verse, at
Yeah.
different times. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We all go through that. Right now, it's easy for me. So rap's fun for me right now. But so I grew up with these records. I know all these records like the back of my ass. So like I've got hundreds of them, that I know I want to go to next if I want to recreate them or make something like them. I play keys. Anything that I can do on a keyboard, like synthesizer and stuff like that, I play it all. I can and I can do it pretty well. I'm not a great live musician, even though I have played
It's a
some live
different game.
keyboard.
It's a different game.
Yeah, for sure. And then and then lately I've been reaching out to other, because now that I've got this sound, created, I've had other producers that are starting to reach out and that are on the similar lane, and now I'm meeting guys that are better than I am, and so I'm like, okay, well now I can supplement this and work on focus more on my on my writing or whatever it is, because it's all time spent.
Yeah.
And so, but in this, I don't want to get too heavy on relying on other producers because I'm very, very involved. I realized just lately I am a huge arranger. Like arrangements are more important to me than even almost the actual production as of lately. I don't know why.
Hey,
but
that is part of producing, man. I honestly, I think arrangement. There are some producers that just arrange and facilitate. Like, get everyone in the room, hear what they're going for. Okay, let me do my work. I mean,
right.
Case in point, like kind of like a Ryan Lewis. Like that dude's bringing in other musicians. He's going, here's the idea. Here's what we're doing. Let's arrange it. Let's sequence it. Here it is. Like, and that's that's high end producing to me.
Right. And don't bring in the strings while rap's going because it's too much frequency. It's battling. In layman terms, it just doesn't work. But in sonic terms, the frequencies are close to the same, and you're trying to hear both at the same time. It's chaos.
Yeah.
But when I'm listening to a record, you're basically just sitting back like Rick Rubin, dumbed down, kind of just letting your mind drizzle over the record. And I'm really just listening for something that disrupts a perfect run. You want to put a record on and you want to just be able to just go through perfectly, and not disrupt the air. And once it has a weird feeling or any disruption or anything like that, stop it. What's going on there? Like, we got to figure that part out, like, and just in working through it. So I think just listening to so many fucking records in my lifetime and just, and just understanding, why I like the things that I like and applying them to, to the ones we're making.
Yeah. Well, there is a physical reaction and there's an emotional physical reaction to music, whether it's positive, whether it's sadness on the negative scale of things. But when you dial in and when a song allows you the period to actually settle in, because sometimes songs start out crazy and you never have a chance to adjust and you're hitting next before it ever starts. Or sometimes it's even like a line, like they say something and you're like, nah, fuck this, and you're out. Or it's too much of the same thing and you're out. But when a song really sucks you in and you become part of the current at that point, there is, especially for me, like there's goosebumps, right? Or there's like nostalgia, or for me there's scent. I have a sensory reaction to music that allows me, I know that it's right or it's wrong, I guess, if that makes any sense. I can smell certain things. I can't describe to you what that is, but it is like, there's memory connected with scent. So there's like all the old, you listen to all these records that you grew up with, and I can smell my room, or I can smell what my dad's car smelled like, or I could smell what the walk to work or the walk to school smelled like, and it, like that to me like triggers like all these endorphins, and it's like, oh my fucking God. Like it reminds you of how much it meant, and then you can hear something new, and for me that smell is like, I don't know, it's an indescribable scent. It's just like it's a thing, but it happens in my nose, and it gives me goosebumps, and it almost reminds me of those things again. Or it's my brain logging a new memory to tap back in to that smell. And I don't know. When I sit down and listen to records, especially like the music that I'm making, if I start losing interest in it, even if it's my 100th listen through, which, like when you are making these songs, you're beating your ass with these songs. If I become numb, if I'm not getting that out of it, it's never going to make the record. It will never see the light of day. It's not going to be a single later down the line. It's not a fucking option. So there's a graveyard of a lot of songs under my belt. So I understand that process. This song, the entirety, the journey of a record too, like sequencing. You start the record, that's the beginning of your journey. You have peaks and valleys, you go through it, you come out the other end, and you look back at it, maybe on the last song, it reminds you of everything else, and you're like, holy fuck, run that back. Like that's what great records were. And now it's like we live in the land of the single. Things are pumped through quicker. People are just putting out a single every month, and then their record at the end of the year is all 12 singles. You've already heard them. Here's a bonus track. Fuck off. See you next year. Like it's a little different. Of course, there's artists that aren't doing that, but it seems like as far as industry standards is leaning more towards music now, instead of take the time, live the life, have the experiences you need to make that record for me. Give me that record again,
Right.
Or give me something like that. Like, don't give me the same exact record, but give me those feelings. Give me that reaction again. I want that to maintain. I want that to be the industry standard, opposed to like content is king, which it is.
Right.
But like,
that's something I'm trying to really stick to my guns about. I've tried to stay away from singles, and I really want to be able to give people, I don't even call them albums anymore. I just call them collections or tape. I call them tapes. They're not tapes, but it's just,
classic.
I want things to go together. I used to love hearing a song after another song and having them go together, and not necessarily sounding alike, but just like, what comes, if you hear an old Snoop Dogg song and you hear the end of it, what's supposed to come next, but now it's on Spotify, so it's gonna go to fucking Mark Morrison, Return of the Mac. But but it's supposed to go into a fucking interlude where Dr. Dre's fucking on somebody. I don't know, whatever comes next. But
you don't love me, you just love my doggy style.
Right. I just would love how these collections were put together, and I'm missing that now. I feel when I listen to a single, it just feels like there's so much boutiqueness there's a special stardust that's missing, and that you get when you put a collection of songs, even if it's 3 or 4 songs together, just to know that these all live together, whether or not they were made the same place or by the same producer, or whatever it may be, just because they're picked by this artist. And like there's something, I just love that, and I can't explain it why. I love that. So I've been staying away from dropping singles. Everybody's like, oh, you gotta drop singles, you know, it's people aren't people want to see you drop more content and this and that, and it's not yanking at my soul to do that.
You've stayed busy in my eyes, man, way fucking busier than I have. So but I do think that there's somewhere there's a balance, right? Like you know, the singles are almost like lily pads to get to the other side of the lake kind of situation. Like it may become mandatory in the, you know, the infrastructure with the way that music is right now. But that doesn't mean that you can't incorporate the same idea, right? Like, so you can say, you know, I've noticed that with singles, I don't have to lock into an idea or a sound like you kind of do with a record. You have to lock into a vibe with a record to, even if the vibe is to kind of fluctuate, you still have to stay within some certain parameters to make it have that journey that we just talked about. But singles can kind of be like, you know, if you state as an artist like, hey, my records are records and their journeys, their experiences, and then my singles are me fucking around with other kinds of sounds that might dictate what the next record sounds like, you know? Mm-hmm. Because to me, it's kind of like a shooting gallery. So it's no love lost if it doesn't really take off. You know, you put out kind of a more modern sound and people are like, nah, I want the 80s Coke Boy shit again. And you're like, all right, well, I got that on lock. I got that in droves for you. So we're good. Right. And you have that, you know, and I get that every time I put something out. They're like, no, do the classic boom bap shit. And you're like, no, we did that. We've been done with that. It's been 4 records, 5 records since we've been done with that. But being able to try new soundscapes, maybe adapt to kind of the new sonic structure of what's coming out, and applying it, of course, to your sound, would be a way for you to kind of like spitball with your fans. And if they're like, God, I fucking love this, and you're like, hey, I know I'm already locked into this record, but maybe the next one is gonna be like maybe more on this, because like, you know, I just released 6 singles this year and this one has like 10 times the plays of any other one. It's like a consensus, you know. Sure. You get to kind of do trial and error with your fans, and I don't know if they see it that way. I don't know if you put out like 4 singles that they're like, not feeling it, catch you on the next one, or if they're just like, you just put out 4 whack singles to me in a row, I'm done with you. Like, and I'm gonna ask you, the fans, on this one, because I don't really know. And whack to you is not what's whack to me. And of course, it's not like I'm just gonna, like, you know, record it on my iPhone, put out some bullshit over like a SoundCloud beat. I'm saying I truly think that this is a song I would release, but it might be a little, you know, if I was looking at all these songs that I compiled, this one kind of stood out of the vibe for the record, but I still think it's a good song. I still get that reaction that I get with it. It just doesn't fit within what I'm trying to give to you next. But I want you to have this. Outside of that, is that without you knowing how I feel about the music as fans, would you say if I put, you know, me or Anthony or any damn body puts out, you know, 3 or 4 singles to you, do you believe that is what you get from that artist now, even if they're all, you know, in variants, or do you hold out for the record? Do you give me a chance when the record comes back, or is it fuck you?
If I know you and I've been rocking with you and I trust, you know, and I trust your brand, I'm always in a holdout. Even if, I mean, I don't even know if you know who this person is, but I'm a huge Messy Marv fan. So Messy Marv is a great example of that. He put out so much good music, tons of good music, and it's been a train wreck for many years now. Put out a lot of shitty, terrible music, and done a bunch of, you know, crazy shit that's, you know, that probably you don't want to, you know, admit that your favorite artist is doing. But I know what he's capable of, And so I'm always peeking around to see what happens, because every now and then when he's with the right producer or with the right quality control or just in a space, boom, lightning in a bottle, a fire ass tape comes out. Like, he still has it, but just depending on the circumstances, sometimes it just like you just get some boo boo and just, you know. So I'm always gonna hold out, you know, and wait, because I'm loyal, trusted fan. I love music like that, so you know.
Yeah. Someone asked,
and I not just with him, but with other artists too. But that was just an example.
Yeah, and I think that's like, we all have that relationship with certain artists, and for me, it's like, you know, if I'm trying to tap into a new audience, maybe these new songs can hurt and help me at the same time, right? Like, maybe this new audience likes this new sound better, and they listen to like my old shit and they're like, what the fuck is this? Maybe his next record is gonna be like this. Cool. And then, you know, the old heads are like, what the fuck is you know, what the fuck is this? It's kind of like balancing the scales of justice and with all that, and I still, even, you know, I'm clocking on 40 now. I'm real close to clocking in my 40 years, and I still think about gaining that like younger, like, not that I want to make like younger dude crazy like party music, but I still want to keep my finger on the pulse of kind of what is happening musically, and find what I love from it and make it applicable in my own music, and hopefully that like translates, you know, my interpretation of that translates with the people that have listened to it. But I would love it if I put out a new single and that got me some new fans, and, you know, they were able to hear the old shit and be like, I get it. But maybe that's not always the case. Maybe you just become like a one song thing for people, which is weird for me, because when I first signed my record contract, it was for like record deals. It wasn't for fucking singles, or like, we were in stores. Like, Spotify wasn't even here in the US. I don't even know if it was conceptualized in Sweden by the time I had signed my record deal. So that has been my whole experience in music, is like making fucking records and not making songs. It was making records to bring people in, not making a song to bring people in. And now it's like a song paired with the right social media trend will bring you all these people, and you become this one thing to them. And that's a fucking extremely confusing, like, it's no longer like, hey, can you get the fucking, you know, #1 radio hit? It's like, can you be the fucking TikTok showing your ass song? Like, it's and it's right. You are that, like, that art, that song is that. It's almost like you strip your identity away as an artist and you just become that song. I don't know how to get over that hurdle. Like, it, because singles provide that as well.
That's a tough one, because that you're right on the head of that. And like, how do we compromise, you know, not wanting to whore ourselves out and be that person, but also, you know, use the tools around us to be in the races of getting new fans and ushering people into our worlds, because we know we can bring value to them. What you said about, you know, trying to tweak the sound a little bit and bring people in, you know, that's exactly what you do.
Yeah.
And it's a test of it's a test of your intelligence to observe the world, observe the new generation or whoever's, you know, paying attention, and what makes them tick and what's working, what's not. All these chords and bass lines, all this shit is old as time, you know, like there's nothing new under the sun. They're just, you know, different, you know, arrangements of drums, or, you know, whatever it is. So it's all the same shit, but now it's us to figure out how to serve it to, you know, whoever's eating now, and you know, and keep it on that same plate that you've always served your food, so you're not compromising what you love. I remember listening to like bands, like maybe Steve Miller Band or like Hall & Oates or something like that, where I know these guys' records, and then I'm hearing like an older version from like a decade before, and I know this song, I'm like, who's this? And you know, my sister was like, oh, that's Steve Miller Band. Oh, the same people that did this song, they sound nothing like that era.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, this was them before, or like Chicago, you know, before they got Peter Cetera or something like that.
Look at the fucking Bee Gees, man. God damn.
All these musicians, which we are, they all go through this, like, you know, like where times change sonically and politically and socially and things like that, and just like things change, and like we kind of get, I feel like we get trapped in having to serve this group of fans that came to you because they like what you do, right? Like, so from now on, I'm supposed to make 80s shit forever because everybody that's rocking with me loves what I do. But
it's the heaviest hand on my pen, man. I swear to God. Like, think about losing those people, thinking about like pissing off or just like not being appealing to your core fan group is the heaviest hand on my pen. I swear to God.
Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking about that the whole time you're saying this, because that's like such that's such the conundrum to you know, where do you go? Do you veer off, or do you experiment, or do you stay close, or do you mix it like so you don't turn your back on them? That's why guys like I don't know, Jay-Z, that really changed his sound all through the years. And even E40, like I like E40 for a certain sound like in the early 90s, and he changed his shit up and I didn't like it again, but now I like it again or whatnot. Like I really, like in the time I was like, why would he change his sound? Like, I don't get it, I don't like it. But now that I take a step back, I'm like, man, he was smart, he was brave. I still like the music that I like. Now another generation likes another pocket of his music, and now we have more fans for him. I never turn my back on him. Yeah. I just like this certain pocket of music I like, you know, like that. And I remember like having that light bulb go off in my head, like, oh, like these guys were brave.
Yeah. To
be able to switch their sound up. At first I was like, you're stupid. Like why would you change, you know, like what's working for you? Like that's got to be a scary thing, especially when there's a lot of money and a lot of you know, history and a lot of things built, you know, like for you to go from one sound to another sound. How did, as Jay-Z coming off of Timberland Swiss Beats, yeah, or he got all those plaques off of like that Timberland Swiss Beat sound when he was going, you know, 7 times platinum with Big Pimpin', right? That might not have been his favorite song.
Get buzzed like the Neptune sound.
Yeah. And then goes into the Blueprint with a completely different sound.
Yeah, and that was the Neptune's record, right?
That was that was when he brought in Kanye and Just Blaze for the whole for the majority of it, and it sounded like it started sounding like old Motown kind of music-ish like type of stuff. I remember listening to it and being like, this doesn't sound like Hard Knock Life type of stuff, but run it again.
Yeah.
Run it one more time.
Man.
And by the 4th time through, you're like, this is hot.
Yeah. I love the Blueprint.
Yeah, me too.
I love that.
But I always think about how scary and how brave he had to be able to shift and change that sound when the last sound was working. The last sound was selling. The last sound was like, and you know how much probably ego and pressure and things are, you know, and self-doubt and is riding on you to be successful at that level, like for you to
Yeah, but maybe so. There's a comment in here from my friend Mike who says, "But it's still Jay-Z on all of it," and I think that is.
Go ahead, Mike.
There is where there it is. Is like he knew that he still had his thing. Like changed the background, but the foreground staying. Like he kept it 100% authentic all the way through, and the background changed, but to me that's just like a different scene in the movie, right? Like we're following this dude in different scenes, and I'll straight up say I think Jay-Z has kept that going the whole fucking time. Like
you're right, he knew what he was doing. And Mike, you're dead on. You're right, it was Jay-Z the whole time.
And I feel like he may be one of those people, not that he talks a lot, but like he knows what he's gonna say when he gets there. Like he's just like bam, like just this authentic dump out, like, I got this, I heard it, okay, here we are. And I've watched like videos of him in those like Just Blaze Kanye sessions and stuff like that, and him just like listening, and him in the Timbaland sessions of him like listening, and then just like them laughing, and then just bam, there's the hook for Big Pimpin' or something, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, those type of people are different animals, man. I don't know how the fuck.
I think 50's like that too, to be honest. I think 50 Cent is kind of like that. He took a nosedive when he started focusing more on film than record, but I felt like all the way from like, you know, Beg for Mercy and all the early stuff, and even just the street tapes that he was doing, to the end of it, till he said, "I'm gonna quit if Kanye beats me on first week sales."
Sure.
Then I feel like that record was like kind of the end of it for me. But that's a long ass run, and he is definitely one of those people that I felt like you just, you know, you look at all the G Unit stuff, and it's just like this dude just was fucking puking out songs, and they were like him.
He did a good job of wearing that cloak, that persona of a character. Like, he was probably one of the best modern day. He was definitely probably the best villain we had in rap in a long time. Maybe if not the best.
And he's still going strong on that shit. Jesus
Right.
Christ, that motherfucker's Instagram is just like a fucking firing squad. But yeah, I used to do a thing. I just used to write artists off. It's, you know, especially when I was younger, and I'm like, underground, blah, 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 blah. But then I was like, let's see where they came from, right? Like, and that's actually how I got to Reasonable Doubt with Jay-Z, because I was listening to everybody. Like, this was probably about the time that Big Pimpin' was like the biggest song on the radio. And I came from punk rock, so everybody, you know, like, they would talk shit about the radio rap. Like, that was like the easiest thing you could do. And it still is, to be honest. Like, that's still like within the circle that I've ran in for so long. Not circle, but like kind of where my music has catered to. A lot of people are like, doesn't sound like, thank God it doesn't sound like all this shit on the radio. It's like, all right. You know, we're catered to, we're given what they give us in that regards. And if I could get on the radio the way that Jay-Z's on the radio, you bet your motherfucking dick I would be. Like,
Sure.
Because people also deserve to hear the music in this same, you know, like, it's not like my music would change if I started getting 10 spins a day. Like, it would still be the same song. It's not like it's magically going to change. It just means that now more people will have a window into that kind of music, and I think that's fine.
Right.
But I used to have to go, hey, let me see where it came from, right? Because things evolve, artists change, especially back then, like when you had those beats, like especially early Jay-Z area, you look at like all the Nas stuff, huge radio stuff, right? Like you probably would say a lot of people would put Nas on like the underground kind of circuit there, but no, that's huge major label radio rap back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Mobb Deep, Wu-Tang, like these people are catching plaques for that sound. Terror Squad, Big Pun, Fat Joe, all that shit. Like, but you still had this like underground sound to it, right? So I'm listening to Big Pimpin' and I'm like, all right, where did it come from? And I discover fucking Reasonable Doubt, which to this day is one of my favorite hip-hop records of all time by Jay-Z, and it made me a loyal Jay-Z fan. So
Sure.
I think following something back, doing your due diligence on an artist is also super important.
I think when you care about it, you're just gonna do that. If you don't care, then you're not gonna do that, and that's fine. That means you just don't care as much, and that's okay too. But if you give a fuck, you're gonna go out and start filing through these credits and seeing who did what type of drink, where the water that they were drinking, what city they were in. All that shit makes a difference. You know what I'm saying? All that shit. I'd love to find out, you know, why this is this way, who was around, where they were from. Yeah.
It's important shit, man. And I think, you know, we never really had this conversation. We talked about music quite a bit on that tour, but it's nice to know. I don't know. There's so much more that goes into it, especially like when you're talking to other MCs or people in the hip hop realm. Like there's so much more that goes into it, and that's why I've held fucking strongly onto my liner notes. Like I always I still like old 70s records. I'm putting, fucking Don Beyonce on the roads and like I want everyone to know like what went into the record, what it, who contributed to the record, and just kind of like the overall, like, I don't know the right word, just the amalgamation of what it took, everything together. And I think with the new like digital era, thank God Spotify's now allowing that. There, you can like put the mixing engineer and like you can put like other songwriters and shit on that. But like, dude, I used to have to spend extra money on my physical copies just so we could have like the extra 2 pages to be like, nah, I'm putting every instrument used, I'm putting every fucking musician, I'm putting the whole fucking thing. If we used a goddamn triangle on this bitch, I'm putting it in there.
To go back earlier, while you're saying that, when we're talking about my process of making records, like, after I would put together the majority of the meat and potatoes of a song, most of the time, if there's a guitar player, I use live basses. I always have live DJs come in and scratch on my scratching and stuff like that. So, and, I didn't want to forget to X them out, but I'm always using musicians and session players and things like that to make this shit come alive, because you can't replicate that, and that shit is, it's so very necessary.
Yeah, and honestly that's the sauce on the record. And like when I was like heavy into sampling, I would look at these records and I would look at the back and I'd start looking for familiar names. They would say, like Kevin blah 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 on the roads, and I would look at the instruments used on the record to see if that was even something that I wanted to dig through, because if it's like, something on the sitar and I'd be like, nah, I'm not fucking with this, like I'm not in a sitar mood today, like I was always looking for kind of like that, like psych rock, folk rocky, like I wanted my Rhodes and my guitars and like that tight drum sound, and because even if I can't get a melody off of this, I better get a snare out of here, so I started looking at different musicians and shit like that to see what I could take away from it, because when you're digging through the fucking dollar bins at half price books, it's not like you get to slap that thing on the plate and like listen to it and like hear what you're getting. And that I carried that with me when I started not sampling. And I'm like, well, all those things that I was looking for on those records, I kind of need to pay that forward. Like I need to say like what I put into this record, what goes into this record. So if somebody listens to this record and they're like, damn, I like this sound is the sound that I like, they can like look at the liner notes and be like, yo, he had this and this and this and this, and these are the motherfuckers that played it. And honestly, I could probably just call them. Like it's those people should be accessible. Those things should be accessible to everybody. So.
And I think it's important that we let people know that there's a lot of TLC that goes into making something that's, rich, like that. It's not just, I kind of play this game because, I'm being out and proud about being an MC, and, and I have, this image behind being an MC. And when you're usually a wordsmith or an MC, it's not, for some reason, it's just not cool to be this overly musical guy. But all of us behind closed doors are really involved in the music. Like, anyone that's good, like they're really, I've come to realize that like most people that have good catalogs of good music, whenever you sit down and talk to them about music, they all fucking know, what it takes. Even if they're not producing it, they know how to produce, and they know what's going on. But that's something that you have to, that you have to let it be known that there's a lot that goes into this, that this shit just doesn't come from anywhere. It takes a lot of layers and a lot of TLC, and Jesus criminy, like when I'm working with, a guitarist or putting a bass line or something like that, I try to be really good about letting people be artistic, you know, and do what they want to do. But also, like, there's a lot of back and forth of, you know, keeping inside of a vision and, you
Yep.
know, and not letting it sway too far out off the road, because then all of a sudden you're listening to the song back and you don't even like the song anymore. But also, you don't want to be Hitler and not let anybody, you know, put their stardust on the track either. So, man, that's a really, really, really delicate balance of letting people have the freedom to do what they want inside of your vision.
And sometimes you got to run through some session musicians. Like,
Right.
sometimes the first guitar player you hire isn't the right one. A lot of the times, the first guitar player you hire is not the one. And sometimes you just got to run through a couple until, you know, when you're sitting down and you're having those conversations, you have to have lefts of that conversation. You're like, I don't know, you really dialed this in, like you're really getting it, and they start talking about the same records that you're talking about, and shit is just clicking and things are working, and you're like, all right, you're the guitar guy.
Those guys around.
Yeah,
keep
you're the
those
guitar
guys
guy.
around. Yeah. And you think it's just as easy as like, yeah, have them come on, play some sick shit on there, but it can go 1,000 different ways. It can go 1,000,000 different ways.
Hey, and it's the same when like fans are like, hey, do a song with blah blah blah, and you're like, that sounds like a terrible day in the studio, you know, like I get it, you like them and you also like me, but that doesn't mean that we go together. You know, we're fucking peanut butter and mayonnaise as far as that's concerned. Like we like it ain't it don't they're both great on sandwiches separate, I guess. Actually, I hate mayonnaise, so whatever. But like, you know, they both have their own realm, but that doesn't mean that they work. And you know, it's the same when you're dialing in with studio musicians or anybody that's contributing to something that you're creating. And that was probably one of the harder skills I had to learn with like bigger studio sessions, is like saying no, and just like having to be like, hey, that's actually not at all what I'm looking for, but we're gonna keep running it, you know, like, and a pro is gonna be able to go, all right, let's keep running it, you know. If dude gets his ass hurt after the first time, you know, if first take isn't the last take, you know, we'll bring the next guy in. But that was like one of the harder things for me, like across this business, actually, because it's not just in the studio, it's on music video shoots, it's in business, it's in contracts, it's in live show shit, it's with sound guys, it's with engineers, it's with bandmates, it's with managers, it's with fucking like having to have hard conversations is like a whole other instrument you need to learn to play if you want to be
right.
a fucking
and so many
musician.
people are so sensitive that when you just say no, they can take it 1,000,000,000 different ways. So, you know, someone like me, I want to explain why no, but most of the time that's unnecessary, because, you know, it's not, you know, a black and white thing, you know. It's usually a gray thing. But then if you don't explain, or you don't serve the information in, you know, a special palatable type of way, then all of a sudden, you know, this energy is fucked up, and, you know, this person's taking offense to it, and, you know, you're trying to figure out a way to execute, or whatever it is in front of you. It's a tricky situation.
Yeah, it's hard.
Now that I'm older, I'm pretty okay with being pretty anal. Like I'm pretty like, nope, that's not the way I want it anymore. Like,
yeah,
I've gone from being pretty like, I know exactly what I want, to, oh, I'm going to let people do what they want to do, and then I'm going to try to meet them somewhere in the middle. And now I'm to the point where, like, I'm going to tell you the way I want it. Let's do it like that. Now you take a couple takes and tell me how you would do it, and then I'll pick what I like.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they blow my doors off, and sometimes they don't.
Yeah. I've ran sessions with people where it was like, you know, you have the conversation before, which I think is super important, to be like, here's the idea. You can run some records by them and be like, here's like some of the licks. Like, I'm really you know, reference. Always, like, for me, it's like reference tracks are huge, because sometimes when you just describe something, it's not like, you know, everybody interprets everything differently. So you can be like, I'm really feeling like these things. and then you're like, now let's run some takes. And you go in and you can coach people through takes. When I was producing and recording the whole Greater Than record, like it was a whole lot of that. Like it was like, you know, like, hey, I get it, but let's try a little something like this because I feel like you are over here when everything else is over here. And if we can get you over here, we got a fucking song. But if you stay over there, we gotta chuck this one. And it's like, not me being a dick, it's just saying like, we're real close, we can do this. Like, let's find what it takes to make it happen. And if it's not, it's also okay. Like, it's okay if our visions can't align, and we'll just scrap it, we'll go to the next one.
Good for you, because a lot of that older mentor, you know, type of Obi-Wan, you know, shot calling is I feel like is getting withered away, and it's on us to get nasty and anal and make sure that shit is transcended to the next generations, because
let's hold it down, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of good quality control in that, and there's a lot of good records that come out of that energy.
When I first moved to the West Coast and I started recording out here, somebody told me that if I can't do it in one take, I can't do it. And it was a studio dude. And he's like, if you ain't coming in here and doing it in one take, then you can't record it. And, you know, I was super green at the time. And so I held that to, you know, I took that to heart for a really long time. And I was like, damn, if I can't do it in one take, then I can't do it. And I really thought all these other dudes, all this other music that I was listening to, they were doing it in one take, right? Like, it was just like this beautiful one take that everybody did. And that was the worst piece of advice, or whatever that is. Like, that was the worst game I've ever gotten. And incredibly wrong, by all means. And
absolutely,
when I went to engineering school, it was to like reverse that. I was like, no. I want to know everything I need to know to get the best takes, like to get the best everything out of anybody. And I think it starts with me just knowing what the fuck I'm doing in the studio. So I gotta learn. So I went and I learned, and then, you know, I think always the goal was for me to be like kind of like a producer engineer situation, and then, you know, my career took a different turn, which is great, and I'm super appreciative for it. But the older I got, the more I wanted to have more of that. But then I also had to be a little bit more protective over what I was working on, because like just at that point, like anybody would say yes to working with me, and that doesn't mean I really want to do it, or anybody would want to sit in the studio. And so Greater Than for me was like a really like, let's see if I can still do this kind of situation, you know, like, let's knock the dust off this. Can I still sit in this chair behind the boards, running all the sessions? Can I follow the line I've drawn, pretty much? You know, can I follow the tightrope that I strung out? And we had some like, it's not a flawless record, but it, like, that idea, like, I think it kicked it off a little harder for me, and it's like definitely something moving forward I would love to do, like working with an artist that really like rings the bell for me, and then being like sitting down in that studio with them and doing that, holding it together, having the hard conversations, saying yes when yes need to be said, and saying no when other people would say yes because they didn't want to say no, which I don't enjoy doing, but like the end goal is to make the best music you possibly can, right? It's a lot harder to do for yourself, which I think ultimately is what this whole conversation's been about, is kind of controlling our art and what it takes into doing all that, how many different hats you have to wear. But I do think that my superpower at the end of the day, when it comes down to music, would be able to find the best part of what I'm looking at. Because I do it with music now. It's how I'm able to stay inspired. I'm able to hear something that people are like, I don't fuck with this. And I'll be like, actually, have you heard how well this song is mixed? Like, have you heard this? Yeah, the Little Yachty song or whatever. But have you heard the kick and bass relationship in this song? Like, holy fucking shit. Or like, have you heard the harmonies and the melodies in this song? Like, I want to take all that shit and I want to hear your song and I want to apply that stuff to it and get that out of you. And I think, you know, I'm naive to think that I can stand on stage for the rest of my life. So maybe that's where I start lending my energy, right? Not now. I think I still got years left where I can stand on the stage and stand in front of the microphone. But like,
No, I think you're doing the right thing. I think you're dabbling in other little avenues and just trying to see what's still like getting your rocks off and what you're still sharp at. I was telling you earlier before, in my early career, I liked the mystique of classic rock bands, how they didn't put their faces on
yes.
them, and it allowed them to go deep into their older ages, but their music got really good. And I was like, man, I'm gonna play this game the long game. I'm not gonna put my face on here, and I'm just gonna make music and get. And after a while, I realized in rap, it's a little bit different. You have to, kind of celebrate yourself, and people want you to be out and proud for that. But there's still something in that, where where I guess my point is you're going to keep dabbling through these ideas, and you want to grow with it. And you're just kind of figuring out, what's going to work and what doesn't, because you know that it can't go forever. But times, are evolving with us, and you never know how long you're going to be able to go, because I think guys our age are giving a lot of value right now still.
Yep.
I mean, a lot.
Well,
a lot more than I thought it was going to be.
Like we were talking about earlier, the reinvention, like every tape you drop is something that's a new hook in the water, right? And that could pull up a fresh new fish. You like, it's not like you've dialed into this one motion that you are just repeating over and over and over until people get sick of it. And I know a lot of artists that are milking the shit out of that right now. But that's them saying I'm done, and I'm gonna let them tell me when it's over, pretty much. But like, the fact that you've already discussed, like, all right, we're doing this kind of like late 80s shit, and then we're gonna jump into the new Jack Danza stuff, which I'm super excited for. Like, you still got gas in the tank, and those are all still new, fresh ideas. Like, who knows, maybe new Jack Danza's the beginning, like,
right,
that's a new maybe that's the one, maybe that's the beginning, and then people go, oh shit, did you hear his 80s shit? Like with Ween, I don't know if you ever listened to the band Ween, but like every record they put out was a different genre. Like, they got country records, like they're all over the fucking place. And I remember like hearing what I heard on the radio of Ween, and then someone would be like, oh, but have you heard this record? And I'd be like, damn, like it's a journey. I love finding that journey within the artist. So you just never know where that begins for somebody else. And as long as you're willing to provide that, then you're not done.
Listen, I'm late for this studio shot. I want to. You have to have me back on for part 2, because we didn't even get into the good shit yet. Like, not at all. We're gonna get so much deeper into this shit. Like, this is like please have me back.
Yes.
But, bro.
This man's on the clock right now. Colin, let's run those headphones for people right now, so people can, who knows? Queen Gampo, I just want you to know you're loved. I saw you talking earlier, but I was dredged in a conversation. I'm sorry that you went through that shit, but you are loved, and you are always. We're gonna bring you up over here. And thank you for the kind words on Canopy. Like, once again, I put out a lo-fi record like 2 months ago. No lyrics, no nothing. It's just like steady beats. And
I listened to the whole thing. It was great.
That was my shit.
It slaps.
Dude, hey, Queen Gampo, your day just got a little better. You just won some headphones again. I don't know if it's 2 times in a row, but you just won them again. So fuck it. You are rich in Astro A10 headphones. So enjoy those. Anthony, thank you for coming on, man. I know you got some shit to do. We will definitely schedule a part 2 for you whenever you have time. But bless. Thank you for coming through. Be safe out there in LA. Get some Roscoe's when you can. It's just be well, my dude.
Bro, thank you so much. You're an inspiration to a lot of us out here, and keep paving the way, bro. And don't second guess yourself. And you know that already. Just keep mashing.
Absolutely. Thank you, man. And everybody that came through tonight, thank you. Colin, we have your song coming up on our playlist on Friday. It's going to be Big Body by Anthony Danza, so make sure you tune in. If you can't wait till Friday, you just click the link right there and you can just listen to it right now. And make sure you hit him with a follow on Spotify and Instagram. We're going to drop his socials for you down here, and YouTube and all those things. So
Thank all you guys. I appreciate all you guys.
yep. Peace, y'all. See you next week.